Well, today is July the 16th, 2022. It is a Saturday. And this is my second outing today on the bike. I was going to take a little footage here of West Union for some of my friends who've moved away and old classmates who haven't been around West Union for a while. And twofold today, to take some footage and then to also try 60 different settings, 60 frames per second, which is a little higher frame rate than what you normally see. I had recently taken some footage on the bike and I wasn't really satisfied with how it looked. It was taken at about 30 frames per second. Anyway, this is 60 frames per second, and hopefully it's going to be a little better. This is just some footage around West Union, Iowa. I just left my place, headed towards, this is the hospital, which is just about a half a block from here. And we'll go around the backside here through the emergency entrance there. Give you kind of a look at how the emergency entrances of the hospital. And at the end of the road here, leaving the hospital area, straight ahead is what we used to call the old Fox place. Straight ahead there. I used to pick raspberries there with my grandfather. There was raspberry bushes, and this whole parking lot was a horse corral. My uncle lived up here in what used to be the house here. Now it's a medical supply. But Bob Traeger and Bob and Ruth Traeger lived up there with cousin Donnie and Bobby and had horses in the back. Of course, everything's different now. Heading up this incline is, we come up to Jefferson Street, and off to the right here is where right here in the blue house, where my friend Dr. Bill Wolf and his wife Lynn lived, and he actually was the doctor that delivered me, but we became friends later in life, and he was quite the musician. And see that bay window there? That's where he had his concert grand piano, and then he had a beautiful Hammond organ. He and I'd play organ and piano duets until 3 and 4 in the morning. Had a lot of fun. Here on the corner is where my buddy Monty Westerfield lived. In those days it was a big red house, and his dad was the editor of the local paper, and I think they used to refer to their place as the Big Red House. Monty can correct me if I'm wrong. Here's where my good friend Teresa Slack grew up. Her parents are making a U-turn here. We're going up Jefferson Street. We'll turn to the left here on, I think that's called Rickles Street, and we'll head down here by one of West Union's parks that I don't think I've highlighted in any of my videos yet. But on the left down here, once we get down here a ways, we'll be at Lions Park, where we used to romp around when we were kids, over here to the left. Kind of a small town park. And down here to the left, if you look, you see some playground equipment, slides and swings and stuff. We'll turn right here and show you where my buddy Corky Stair grew up in this house right here. He's now known as Court Stair, married to Janet. And then up here a ways in the blue house to the right is where that famed songwriter Mark Haynes lived. He's the one that co-wrote Train Track Penny and also Carry Me Out to Sea and Mr. Gray, which many of you are familiar with. Go back down here and go down, is this Jones Street? I think it's called Jones Street right here. And it's got a big old house here, and I never have known much background on this big old house, but I've always thought it was real interesting. It's like a big old mansion. I don't know who used to live there or who currently lives there, but kind of an interesting architecture. Down here to the left, a few houses down, is where my mother and grandfather's longtime secretary used to live, Josephine Neal. She worked for my mother and grandfather for over 70 years as a secretary right there. Many, many times. My mother, Josephine never drove. My mother always gave her a ride home after work and dropped her off there. Would wait till Josephine got in the house safe and sound, and then we'd drive off. I'm going to take a left down here. And we're going to kind of drive up this street. What is it? I can't remember what this street is, but we'll turn left here, go up the hill, and I'll show you the old, I think it was Stanmeyer Apartments that recently burned. It was a huge complex, a lot of little houses and apartments all kind of built together, but just recently on the left here, there's not much left of it. I think two of the structures they're going to leave and kind of refurbish or remodel or whatever the term is. One of them, incidentally, interestingly, right here to the left is where my piano teacher, Barbara Temple, taught. Right, and look in that window there to the left. That's where her studio was, and I went there for many, many years, especially during the high school, junior high, and high school years. And here you can actually smell some of that burnt smell. But straight ahead, that's where you go into Barbara Temple's studio, right there, that door. Now we're going to go across the street, and part of this video I'm making for my old classmate, or my, well, she's not old, she's my age, but Catherine Esty grew up in this house right here. She and her parents and her two brothers, Bob and Steve. And the significance of getting some video of this is I believe they're going to tear this down. It was used here in recent years as a kind of office building, several offices in there. And I'm not 100% sure, but I think the bank is going to build here on that site. But I thought I'd get some footage there for Catherine to one last look before it's gone. Kind of sentimental footage here. But it's a big old house, and that's where she lived in during our high school years, junior high and high school. She had a big white German Shepherd. I'm trying to think of his name. Catherine, I can hear you telling me right now what it is, long distance, but I can't think. Was it King? I can't remember. But anyway, so that'll be torn down. See the big house there, kind of the right. We'll go down the alley here and then turn to the right, and we'll get a view of it. That's a big old house that's been featured in several magazines, and also I think on some, like the History Channel or some cable TV did a piece on this a few years ago. And again, I can't tell you any details. I don't know who lives here, but it's gotten a lot of publicity over the years. So I know there's a lot of you probably could tell me, or telling me right now, who lives there and what the history is of it. We'll turn around here and go back up the street here. This building up here to the right used to be the clinic when I was a little kid. This building right here, and that's where it used to take 2 doctors and 3 nurses and my mother to hold me down to give me my polio shots. And that's where I probably developed a fear of doctors' offices, because to this day, whenever I go into a doctor's office, my blood pressure goes off the charts. I guess they call it the white coat syndrome, but it's a real thing, and I think it's because they used to hold me down there and give me shots. Okay, now this is actually called Vine Street or North Vine Street, and it's kind of our main street. They don't call it Main Street though, and so here's a lot of the businesses. I won't go into detail the history of all this until we get down here a ways. Now this kind of orangish looking little building here is where my mother and grandfather had their first law office, and then they moved, I don't know what year, down to this office right here. I'll stop here for a second. This is now Dillon Law. Pat Dillon and his wife purchased that from me and my sister a few months ago, and I'm so happy they did, because they're going to keep this law practice going, even though it's now their practice. But so glad this building and practice will continue. My mother would have liked that. As you can see, it looks real nice. They've remodeled it here. On the corner here, this industrial development or whatever it is where my Ricky Carbon's dad had a Carbon's 5 and Dime, I think they called it. We'll go up here. Sorry to sound so rushed here, but just trying to get all this info in here for those of you who've been out of town for a while. We'll go down to the end of this block. As you can see, the Courthouse Square is to the left here. Right down here, this building straight ahead is the used to be the old hospital. That's where I was born, in this building. Now it's the Fayette County Historical Center. And next door here is the Woodland Eye Clinic, which I went to last week for the first time. That was my first eye checkup in 45 years. And I checked out great. They said my eyes look good, and I actually don't even need glasses to drive, but I told them I wanted to get some glasses just because I do notice my distance vision is not as good as it used to be. So here we have the courthouse, and right here in this open spot here used to be the jailhouse where my Aunt Mabel and Uncle Fred lived. Uncle Fred was a sheriff, and the jail was actually part of their residence. It was about a 2 or 3 story brick residence. I spent a lot of time. There's a kid visiting Aunt Mabel who cooked these wonderful meals and rolls, and I think I've gone into detail about that in maybe another video here. Gazebo, that's not the original one, but that's one they replaced it with. And kind of that used to be to the left, a kind of a fish pond. Again, that's not the original one either. We'll go down the walk here, and I want to show you along this this street. I think this street is actually called, that we'll be getting on here, I think is actually called Main Street. Here we'll just drop down here onto the road, and a lot of you who are my age will remember along here to the left used to be the high school and the junior high connected buildings. Now it's, what is it, a Dollar General or a Dollar Tree? What is that, Family Dollar? So I don't quite get that. 2 dollar stores right next to each other, but they've just built that. Not open yet, so we'll have to see what that is. We'll go down here, and about mid-block there's a little alley to the left. I call it Cat Alley, because you always see a cat. 9 times out of 10 you'll find a cat or 2. So it's always a necessary little side trip I take just to see the cats. So we'll see if there are any cats out here today. There used to be some here to the left in this backyard. I don't see any today. And then off to the right, this next place, usually a cat over there. Let's see if we see any. Don't see any yet. Kitty, kitty. No kitties. And then sometimes there's cats down here on this in this brownish house to the right. There's a Casey's for those of you who remember that as a athletic field behind the school. And we'll kind of wind this down here. A lot of this stuff coming up is stuff I've had in other videos. So I hope you folks enjoyed this little mini tour on the 16th of July 2022.